In August of 1938, in a juke joint outside Greenwood, Mississippi, a 27-year-old man took a drink of whiskey from an open bottle that a friend had already slapped out of his hand once that night. Never drink from an open bottle a stranger hands you. Every bluesman knew that rule. Robert Johnson knew that rule. He drank anyway. 3 days later, he was crawling on his hands and knees in the dirt, howling. And the folks who were there swear to this day that he wasn't howling in pain. He was howling at something. Something standing just past the edge of the lamplight where nobody else could see. They buried him fast. No headstone. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. There are 3 graves in the Mississippi Delta that claim to hold Robert Johnson. 3 churches, 3 markers, 3 congregations, all certain. Nobody knows which one he's actually in, or if he's in any of them at all. To understand how a man ends up with 3 graves and no shadow, you have to go back 8 years. Back to a dirt crossroads outside Dockery Plantation at midnight, where a heartbroken boy laid his guitar down in the road and waited for an old man with a cane. And before we go one step further, I need to clear something up. Because the story you've heard, the one about the devil, they got the wrong man. And I'll tell you who was really standing at that crossroads. Because my people have known his name for 400 years. Stay with me. It's 1930, Robinsonville, Mississippi. Cotton country. Flat black earth stretching out so far in every direction that the horizon feels like a lid closing over you. The juke joints out here are the only light after dark. Little wooden shacks packed shoulder to shoulder, sweat and corn liquor, and a wood floor bowing under the stomp of 100 feet. And ruling over those rooms are 2 men, Son House and Willie Brown. Giants. When Songhouse plays slide guitar, it sounds like a church service and a knife fight happening at the same time. And there's this kid who keeps showing up. Skinny, long fingers, 1 bad eye. 19 years old, and he's got a hunger on him you can see from across the room. Robert Johnson. Now, Robert can blow a little harmonica, and that's fine. But what he wants is the guitar. So every time Son House and Willie Brown take a break, step outside for air, for a drink, for a woman, Robert sneaks up on the platform and grabs one of their guitars. Son House told this story his whole life, so hear it in his voice.
That boy would start banging on that thing and the noise. Folks would come storming up from the back hollering, "Make him put that thing down. He's running people crazy with it." They laughed at him, grown men, wiping their eyes, laughing. Get the boy a harmonica. Get the boy a cotton sack. Get him anything but a guitar. And Robert would hand the guitar back and sit down and take it.
You've felt that, haven't you? Being laughed at for the thing you love most? That laughter goes somewhere. It doesn't evaporate. It settles down into the marrow and it waits. But laughter alone doesn't drive a man to a midnight crossroads. What happened next did. Here's the part of the story they always leave out, the part that matters most. Robert Johnson was married. Her name was Virginia Travis. He was 18 when they wed. She was 16. And by every account that survives, that boy loved her the way you loved the first person who ever made you feel like you weren't a mistake. They were going to be a family. Virginia was carrying his child. Robert had all but decided to set the music down, become a farmer, a father, a settled man. In April of 1930, Virginia went to stay with family to deliver the baby. And Robert, 19 years old, one last taste of the road, went off to play music. While he was gone, Virginia went into labor. Something went wrong. In 1930, in the Delta, for a poor black family, something went wrong meant there was no doctor coming. Virginia died. The baby died with her. And when Robert finally made it to her people's house, guitar still in his hand, do you know what her family told him? Standing over the grief of a 16-year-old girl, they told him this was God's judgment, that Virginia died because Robert had gone off to play the devil's music, that her blood was the price of his sin, and it was on his hands. Think about what that does to a 19-year-old boy. The church didn't tell him the music is dangerous. The church told him you already belong to the dark. Look what your music already bought. So when folks ask me, why would Robert Johnson go looking for a deal at the Crossroads? I tell them he didn't fall to the dark side. He was pushed by the very people who claimed to be saving his soul. If everybody's already decided you're damned, why not go collect what damnation pays? After Virginia, Robert Johnson vanishes. One day he's a laughingstock of the Robinsonville jukes, and the next, gone. No goodbye. Son House assumed the boy finally gave up and went back to the plow, and honestly, nobody missed him. He drifted south, down near Hazelhurst, the town where he was born. And down there, the story splits into two roads. And I'm going to walk you down both of them, because at a crossroads, that's what you do. The first road is the one historians like. Down in Hazelhurst, Robert found a man named Ike Zimmerman, a guitar player unlike anybody else in the county, and a man with a reputation that made mothers pull their children indoors. Because Ike Zimmerman, folks said, didn't learn guitar from any man. Ike Zimmerman learned to play in the graveyard, at midnight, sitting on tombstones. That part's not embellishment. That's what Ike's own family said about him. He claimed the cemetery was the only place quiet enough to practice, and if the dead had opinions about his playing, well, they were entitled to them. And Ike took this broken, grieving boy out to those graveyards, night after night, moonlight on the headstones, and taught him things no juke joint player in Robinsonville had ever imagined. So there's your first road, a teacher, a graveyard, 2 years of obsession. But the second road asks a question the first one can't answer. Because plenty of men practiced, plenty of men had teachers, and nobody, before or since, came back changed the way Robert Johnson came back. The second road says that somewhere in those 2 years, on one of those midnight walks between the graveyard and home, Robert stopped walking where the roads crossed, and he waited. Now, before I take you to that crossroads, I need to fix something. Because Hollywood's been lying to you for 100 years, and I don't allow lies at my fire. The story you know says Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil. Redskin, pitchfork, brimstone, the whole European costume. But ask yourself, whose crossroads was this? Whose tradition? The people of the Delta were the grandchildren of West Africa, and when they were dragged across the ocean, they carried their spirits with them, hidden inside their songs and their stories and the soles of their feet. In the old ways, the ways my grandmother's grandmother knew, the crossroads has a keeper. He is the first spirit you greet, in Haiti, in New Orleans, anywhere the old knowledge survived, because he stands at the gate between this world and the other one, and nothing passes through without his say-so. An old man, a cane, a limp, because one of his legs walks in our world and the other walks in the world of the spirits. Papa Legba. He is not the devil. He never was. He's older than the devil, older than the word devil. He is the opener of roads, the master of the threshold, the one who decides what crosses over. But when the preachers heard the old folks talking about a dark man who meets you at the crossroads at midnight and gives you power, they only had one name in their book for a being like that. So they renamed him, and the rename stuck, and a gatekeeper got turned into a monster. But out here, at the fire, we use his right name, Midnight. A dirt crossroads south of nowhere, Mississippi. The air doesn't move. It hangs, thick and wet, smelling of turned earth and kudzu rot, and something faintly metallic, like a penny held under the tongue. Robert walks to the center, where the two roads make their X in the dirt. Even the crickets have gone quiet, and if you've ever stood in a Mississippi field, you know the crickets never go quiet. The silence out there isn't empty. It's the silence of something holding its breath. He sets his guitar down in the road. He knows how this works. His grandmother's whispers taught him. You don't pray out here. You don't call. You bring your offering and you wait. And if the old man judges your hunger worthy, he comes. The shadows begin to lengthen, not with the moon, but against it, stretching the wrong direction, like the darkness itself is leaning in to look at him. And a man walks out of the dark. No horns, no fire. An old man in a suit that looks woven from the dust of 1,000 funerals, leaning on a cane, dragging that one lame leg, and yet he moves smooth, fluid, like a panther that's only pretending to limp. He doesn't say a word. He holds out one hand, skin like cracked parchment stretched over iron, and Robert, throat too dry to speak, picks his guitar up out of the dirt and hands it over. The old man doesn't tune it. He doesn't so much as glance at the fretboard. He just begins to play. And the sound that comes out of that guitar is not music. It's a riot of ghosts. It's a woman screaming over a child that won't wake up. And underneath that, the long, mournful moan of a train pulling out of a station forever. And underneath that, a jagged, percussive heartbeat. The heartbeat of a man who knows exactly how much time he has left and plays like he can hear it draining. It's the most beautiful thing Robert has ever heard, and it makes the hair on his neck stand up until it stings. Because somewhere inside all that sound, he can hear a voice he knows. He can hear Virginia. The old man stops, and the silence afterward is louder than the music was. He hands the guitar back, and when he finally speaks, his voice is gravel ground under a boot heel.
You want the world. You want them to stop laughing. You want to play until their hearts bleed and they can't even tell you why.
Robert nods. He can't find his voice, and the old man doesn't need it.
Then understand what this is, boy. It's not a gift. It's a trade.
He leans in close, and Robert can smell him now. Not brimstone, nothing so cheap as brimstone. Deep forest floor, wet earth, the underside of things.
You get the sound, you get the name. But a road-opened man belongs to the road, not to a woman, not to a home, not to the light. You'll be a wanderer till the day you stop wandering. And son, you'll feel it when that day starts coming.
Robert looks down at the guitar, then down the dark road ahead of him. And what does he have to lose that the world hasn't already taken? The church told him he was damned the day they buried Virginia. He takes the guitar. The old man smiles, and it's not a pleasant thing, that smile. Just teeth and shadow. And he turns and walks back the way he came, his cane tapping once, twice, and then nothing. Not fading footsteps, just nothing, like the night swallowed him whole. Robert stands alone at the crossroads. His hands are shaking. He plucks one string, and his fingers fly. Chords that shouldn't exist, a bass line walking underneath the melody like a second man is playing it. He isn't a boy fumbling at an instrument anymore. He's a conduit, and something enormous is pouring through him. He laughs out loud, alone in the dark. And then he looks down at the moonlit dirt to find his own 2 feet. He casts no shadow. Now here's where I stop telling you legend and start telling you fact. Because this next part is documented, witnessed, and repeated by the witnesses until the day they died. Around 2 years after he vanished, Robert Johnson walked back into a juke joint in Robinsonville. Son House and Willie Brown are up on the platform, mid-set, and Son spots him, the laughingstock, the harmonica kid, standing there with a guitar strapped across his back. Son, being Son, can't resist. He calls out something like,
"Hey boy, you still got that thing? What can you do with it now?"
And Robert says,
"Let me have your seat a minute."
The room's already grinning. They remember this kid. They're ready for the show, the bad kind of show. Robert sits down, tunes for a second, and starts to play. Son House described that moment for the rest of his life, and he never once described it like a proud teacher watching a student. He described it like a man who'd seen something wrong. All those years later, telling the story to college kids and historians, Son House would get this look on his face and say,
"That boy was so good. So good that when he finished, all our mouths were standing open."
2 years earlier, this kid couldn't hold a rhythm. Now he's doing things Son House can't follow, playing bass and rhythm and lead at once. One man sounding like 3, a sound so full that people who heard Robert Johnson records years later refused to believe it was a single guitar. And it was Son House, not some Hollywood screenwriter, but Robert's own elder, a man who later became a preacher, who said the words that started the legend.
"He sold his soul to play like that."
That's the thing about this story that gets under my skin. The legend didn't come from outsiders. It came from the men who knew him best, who watched the before and the after with their own eyes and could not find a natural explanation for what stood in between. For the next few years, Robert Johnson is unstoppable and uncatchable. He walks Memphis, Helena, St. Louis, Chicago, New York even. He shows up in a town nobody's ever seen him, plays a street corner until the crowd is 3 deep and weeping, collects his money, and by morning, he's gone. He travels with no band, he keeps no home. Women fall for him in every town, and he lets them, for a night or a week. But the moment anyone reaches for him, really reaches for him, he slips through their fingers like smoke. Remember the terms: not to a woman, not to a home, not to the light. The musicians who traveled with him, Johnny Shines, Robert Lockwood, they told stories for decades. How Robert would be sitting in a room full of people, mid-conversation, and go absolutely still, eyes fixed on the door. And then he'd stand up and leave. No goodbye. Gone for days, sometimes weeks. Like he'd heard something coming down the road that nobody else could hear. Johnny Shine said Robert was the restless kind, that he could wake up at 2 a.m, take a notion, and walk out into the dark, and you could either follow him or lose him. What do you call a man who can't stop moving, who watches doors, who never sleeps in the same town twice? You call him a man who knows something is following him. In 1936, Robert gets his shot at immortality, a recording session in San Antonio, Texas, set up in a hotel room. And here's a detail that is 100% true and gives me chills every time. When it came time to record, Robert Johnson turned his chair around and played facing the corner, his back to every man in the room, singing into the wall. Historians will tell you it was acoustics or shyness. Maybe so. But I'll tell you what the old folks say. They say some men face the corner so no one can steal their technique. And some men face the corner because they don't want anybody standing behind them. He recorded 29 songs across 2 sessions. 29 songs. That's the entire recorded legacy of the most influential bluesman who ever lived. And if you want to know what was on his mind, you don't need me. Just read the titles. He wrote about standing at the crossroads begging for mercy. He wrote about walking side by side with the devil. He wrote about a hellhound on his trail. The man told us, right there on the records. He told us exactly what was following him, and we called it poetry. August 1938, a juke joint called Three Forks out where the highways cross, because of course it was at a crossing, near Greenwood, Mississippi. Robert's been playing there a few weekends running, and he's been doing what Robert does. He's gotten friendly with a woman. The woman, as it happens, is married to the man who runs the joint. Saturday night, the place is packed and sweating. During a break, somebody sends a bottle of whiskey over to Robert, open, already uncorked. His friend Sonny Boy Williamson is sitting right there, and Sonny Boy slaps the bottle out of his hand, tells him, "Man, don't ever take a drink from an open bottle. You don't know what's in it." And Robert Johnson, the man who outran a hellhound for 8 years, the man who watched every door in every room, looks at his friend and says,
"Don't ever knock a bottle of whiskey out of my hand."
Another open bottle comes. Robert drinks. By midnight, he's sick. Can't sing, can't stand. They carry him to a house in town, and for 3 days, Robert Johnson dies slowly. Most likely strychnine, or poison enough on a body already failing. The stories from those 3 days are the kind people only tell in daylight. He's on the floor, he's crawling, and he's howling. Ooh! Baying, they said, like a dog, like a hound. Some tellings say he was snapping at the air. Some say he kept staring at the door. He died on August 16th, 1938, 27 years old. And yes, go count the others who stopped at 27 and ask yourself why that number keeps coming back around like a debt collector. They buried him quick, in an unmarked grave, in the heat of a Delta August. And this is where I leave you with the detail from the top of our story, the one I can't let go of. 3 different graveyards claim him. 3 markers stand today, miles apart, each one swearing Robert Johnson rests below. The historians say it's just poor record keeping, poverty, a pauper's burial, lost to time. But the old folks, my folks, have a different way of reading it. They say you can't keep a road-opened man in the ground because he doesn't belong to the ground. He belongs to the road. Robert Johnson recorded 29 songs, and those 29 songs became the root system of everything. The Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Eric Clapton, who called him the most important blues singer that ever lived. Every rock guitarist you have ever loved is standing in a line that leads backward, backward, backward. Down out of the arenas, off the radio, down a dirt road in Mississippi, to a grieving 19-year-old boy standing at a crossroads at midnight with everything to gain and nothing left to lose. And the old man at the gate? Papa Legba doesn't chase anybody. That's never been his way. He's a gatekeeper. Gatekeepers don't hunt. They wait. So if you ever find yourself out in the Delta, or anywhere really, because every town has one, and you come to a place where 2 roads cross, and the crickets go quiet, and the air goes still and thick like the world is holding its breath, keep walking. Unless, of course, there's something you want badly enough to trade for it. In that case, Set your offering down in the dirt and wait for the sound of a cane tapping up the road. He'll hear you out. He always does. He's very fair about the terms. That's the trouble with him, really. He never lies about the price. We just never believe him until it's due. So ask yourself, what actually got sold at that crossroads? Because the man who met a spirit at the meeting of two roads, that's not a deal with the devil. That's an old, old protocol. That's a gatekeeper. That's somebody's grandmother's religion, standing in the dust at midnight, doing exactly what it was always meant to do. They just didn't have a word for it. So they used the only word their church gave them. Somebody go put flowers on all 3 graves. If you made it this far with me, then you already know this channel ain't about ghosts. It's about what got called a ghost and who did the calling. So tell me something down in the comments. Do you believe he made a deal? Tell me the story your people told, the one about the crossroads, the one they told you was just a story. Subscribe if you want to keep walking with me. Ring the bell if you want to know when I come back. And next time, we're going down to the low country, where something climbs in your window at night, takes your skin off the hook, and wears it till morning. Sleep light.